Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewinski and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. The three-day St. Petersburg International Economic Forum began on the 18th of June and will last until the 21st of June. Thing is, it is kind of international in name only, or would have been if it wasn't for the guest of honor, and you'll never believe who that happens to be. But before we make the big reveal, let's just make it clear, this thing is evidently competing for the title of the strangest political event of the year. The competition being probably Russia's recent take on peace negotiations. Anyway, let's take a look at this bizarre extravaganza of questionable guests, even more questionable merchandise, wistful glances at the legacy of a certain dictator, and a dystopian plot twist that would make cyberpunk writers proud. Now, when we hear International Forum, we probably imagine economists, diplomats, and technocrats from all across the world. But Russia is apparently going for a slightly different vibe. You see, the most noticeable international guest at this year's forum is the Taliban. Yeah, the same guys who are on the lists of terrorist organizations in several countries. But in Russia, it seems they are now good friends from the East. So what's next? ISIS as a guest of honor next year? Given how Moscow is perfecting its own Al-Qaeda on steroids act by lobbying hundreds of drones at innocent civilians in Ukraine every day, we wouldn't be surprised. This, in a nutshell, is kind of like a twisted Kremlin-sponsored version of the ComicCon, where literally everyone wants to be a superhero, and the superhero is Homelander. But that is not all. One of the stands at the event proudly displayed the medals of Vladimir Putin's dad, Vladimir Spiridonovich. Seems like this is no longer an economic forum, really, but a full-fledged propaganda event, which is not surprising in the least. Last year, the public was shown Putin's family tree, so this time we get this display of family trinkets. The Russians love their medals, you see. I mean, ever seen a Russian general in a parade uniform? A walking Christmas tree with more metal than your local smelting plant gets through in a month. Can't wait for next year's trip down the Putin memory lane, by the way. A blanket from the dictator's kindergarten, maybe? Vlad's first police report for disorderly conduct. The possibilities, as they say, are endless.
Если такое случается, но, честно говоря, за практику это не такой часто.
Okay, and now for the cyberpunk twist that we promised. While the St. Petersburg Forum's participants are discussing new ethics and digital immortality, ordinary local residents can't even order their morning coffee because the internet is down. Locals report interruptions in mobile communications and blame the forum organizers, who are probably jamming the signal just in case a certain someone may have left a mobile home parked somewhere nearby. Wouldn't want a drone swarm to interrupt such a fine gathering, right? And you know, Ukraine doesn't actually attack civilian targets, but what if the drones just came around and threw away some leaflets saying Putin is a war criminal? Now that would be rather embarrassing, wouldn't it? Also, if you block internet access, there is the added bonus of no unwanted news getting through. If Mr. Budanov sent his regards to a refinery or a munitions plant somewhere in Russia, the guests would never get to see the footage of the fireworks. Instead, they would stay laser-focused on the next TED Talk about why firing Shahed drones at people's homes is the peak of out-of-the-box thinking. Close your eyes and imagine the Taliban and the Soviet Union had a baby. Well, with Putin around, you don't have to imagine anymore. The power of now, indeed. Even Lenin's mausoleum looks entertaining by comparison. But wait, there is more. This year, the main hit among the souvenirs at the event was Labubu plush toys. You heard of those, right? Everyone is talking about them now, so why shouldn't Russia just try, keep up with the trend? Thing is, these Labubu toys have undergone a small, albeit psychologically traumatic upgrade. Instead of the usual smiling critters, customers were greeted by the faces of ex-statesman, edgelord Dmitry Medvedev, and even Putin's personal mouthpiece, Dmitry Peskov.
Да, хочу.
Это Навиулина.
Да.
Здесь у нас Дмитрий Медведев, Песков.
Okay, so this economic forum is actually a furry convention. Great! Now everyone can embrace inflation, which is under control, by the way, in the form of a Labubu with the face of the central bank governor. Although some visitors complained that this toy automatically devalues all the rubles in their pockets. And don't even get me started on the very idea of a bunny-eared Medvedev standing there on your shelf like an evil version of Pikachu. Still, we absolutely love those little furry things, right? Everybody should get one. Hug it, throw it at the wall, perhaps even use it as a voodoo doll. The power of positive thinking. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. All right, are you ready for Solovyov's new face of humanism? On live Kremlin television, Vladimir Solovyov, Russian propaganda's chief mouthpiece, uttered another phrase that immediately should go down in the textbooks of absurdity. No matter what they think, we remain human, while they lose their humanity.
В отличие от них у нас нет ненависти. У нас ненависти к ним нет. Вот в нашей культуре можно ненавидеть грех, но не грешника. Вот ненависть, а у них к нам есть. Животное. Поэтому, что бы они ни думали, мы остаемся людьми. Они теряют человеческий облик.
Translated from the Kremlin's newspeak, staying human means bombing cities at the break of dawn and calling it liberation. And of course, convincing the world that Ukraine is most likely shelling itself, for want of better explanation, I guess. It seems that according to Russian propaganda, humanity is when you read a report about another attack on a residential building and have a completely calm, well, it happens look on your face, and then you spend another 5 minutes thinking about how to present this as some kind of historical justice. It's strange to hear about loss of humanity from a man who shouts, "Hit Kiev once again on the air," as if he was ordering another latte. Perhaps for Solovyov, humanity is the new ruble. It looks convincing, but has no value outside of Russia. If war is peace and humanity is missiles aimed at civilians, then it must be going according to plan. Hunger is a diet, poverty is spirituality. And Solovyov is a philosopher. It's all about who controls the narrative, thinking their regime will last forever. Until it doesn't. Just ask Ayatollah Khamenei. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.